Hey guys, I wasn't planning on making another video so soon, but I was starting to make the rounds on some of the lefty YouTube channels, that I kind of watch on a regular basis. And one of the guys that I watch regularly, I used to like this guy a lot. I actually considered him to have some integrity, and he seemed to, really have a balanced, perspective on things. And again, 2016 showed up. Trump came into office, and there are just so many problems that I see on the left. And, we've already talked about, the right. And I'll get further, into them, later. But this guy's name is Kyle Kulinski. And he just fell off the deep edge. He fell off the deep edge. He got really wrapped around the axle about what they call Russiagate. So, according to him, Democrats came up with this conspiracy of lies and accused Donald Trump of working with the Russians in order to win the 2016 election. And the way that he talks about Russiagate, just it caused me to begin to have a sour, taste in my mouth when I have to listen to him, he talks about it constantly. And while, okay, fine, if that's the way that he feels, about Russiagate, cool. So why isn't he talking about what's happening on the right now with Stop the Steal? Republicans are actively changing election laws so that if an election happens in a state like Georgia, that the legislature would be able to override what the elections personnel, where they've certified it, they said everything was fair. So if they still don't like it, then they can go through the legislature and make the decision about the election from there. That is no way. That doesn't even make any sense. And you don't have him talking about what I'm talking about, Stop the Steal, the same way that he goes on and on about Russiagate. And one thing that I hope that you guys, learn about me is I actually do try to be fair. So if I see something happening on one end and then I turn around and see it happening on the other, I'm not going to pick a side. If you're both being ridiculous, then I'm going to call out the ridiculous insanity that I see, regardless of who's doing it. And so he does his thing. Same thing like with Jimmy Dore. He goes on rants and rampages against Democrats, but then doesn't really go into the same depth and rant for Republicans, because he has this philosophy that there are populists on the right that the left can work with to be able to get things done, like Medicare for all and other social programs that would actually benefit the society at large. And what he doesn't realize is that there's no such thing as a right populist. They are fascist, and you can't negotiate with a fascist. It's something I think, and I really am not being racist when I say this, but it's like some disease that white people have with each other, because they think that the goodwill, they always want to give goodwill to each other, even when they're showing that you shouldn't be giving them this level of goodwill. And maybe as a black person, I understand a lot about white culture, that when I see stuff like that, it alarm bells go off in my head. Because when you decide that you're going to put all of the evil and negative and insanity that you're looking at aside for the sake of white brotherhood and white camaraderie and civility, then black people are going to end up getting the short end of that stick. And that's how we've ended up creating and maintaining this jacked up system that we're in, and we can't get out of it because you always have white people that are going to organize and join in solidarity with each other, even when it doesn't make any sense, and even when it's going to be a detriment, to the people that they swear that they're trying to help. You can't negotiate with a fascist, and he doesn't want to see that. He's wrapped up, with Cristobal and Jimmy Dore and Katie Halper and Matt Taibbi and Aaron Matei and, these nuts that skew right. And to me, his rhetoric has turned dangerous. So now he's been getting a lot of flack because he's on this he has this thing that he doesn't like anti-vax people. And I'm going to go and get the recording, and I'll put it, probably on the next show, the next upload, that we do. So now he's complaining because he's been getting hit. His hypocrisy has been left open for people to see, and he's feeling attacked because people are rightly calling him out for wanting to maintain his connections to a show like Joe Rogan while he runs around and lies on people like Jimmy Dore. So they got into a fight, a few months ago, over some beef, that they had going on. And then he goes running to Vosh's channel and really told a lie, on Jimmy Dore. I don't even like Jimmy Dore, but he's not anti-vax. He's anti-mandate. And he went on Vosh and lied on this man. And then at the end of the segment that he was doing with Jimmy Dore, he actually added something that was completely unnecessary. He started talking and denigrating people, talking about he has a real problem with people who are anti-vax. So I want to say, I don't even know how much later it was, but then Joe Rogan turned around and said that he's not taking the vaccine. That's about as anti-vax as you can get. And Kyle has nothing to say. He'll sit down and he will craft a carefully worded message to keep from criticizing Joe Rogan the same way that he did with Jimmy Dore. And I told him, you need to say the same thing that you said about Jimmy Dore, about Joe Rogan. And you need to say it with your whole chest and your whole genitals. I need to see all of it, In that video with Vouch, well, I'm a grown-ass man. Well, if you're a grown-ass man, Kyle, be the man that you said that you were. If you have a problem with anti-vax people and Joe Rogan is anti-vax, where's the commentary? Well, Joe Rogan and I, we disagree, on some things, and we can talk about that. He didn't do that with Jimmy Dore, So Kyle is full of rhetoric. He's a grifter. And, coming from a position where I actually used to like and respect him, I don't anymore. So I kind of want to play this so you can listen to him whine. And he's not a victim in this video. Don't know if we're going to play the whole thing. We'll kind of go, kind of play it by ear. So here he goes.
Guys, so I normally have a policy, as all of you know, because I've talked about this 1,000 times, of I'm not going to read my Twitter mentions, because when you hit a certain size, I don't remember exactly what that size is, but when you hit a certain size, you get a decent number of, people who despise you, people who really hit you with vitriol and hatred. And, when I was a little younger and I was more new to the YouTube scene, I felt like I had a pretty thick skin. I could take whatever people are throwing at me because there's enough positive stuff where it outweighs the negative stuff. But then at a certain point, I don't know why this happened or how this happened, or maybe it's not unique to me, maybe it's a thing that generalizes across the board. But at a certain point, you start focusing more on the negative stuff. And, it gets in your head. And even if okay, it's just one person, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe, they have their reasons or whatever, the negative stuff sort of sticks with you. So at a certain point, I decided it's better just for general mental health and happiness and well-being to just not, read through mentions on Twitter and not to dive into the YouTube comment section, because at the end of the day, even though I thought I had a thick skin, ultimately my new conclusion is that I really don't. I do, in the sense that if somebody's making a criticism of me that I think is truly legitimate and genuine, I can digest that and I can accept it. And in fact, I sort of like it if it's a reasonable, sincere, genuine criticism coming from a good place. I guess I just can't. I have a very thin skin when it comes to things that are vitriolic and hateful and sort of over the top, and when people malign intentions and try to almost attack your being as opposed to maybe a specific point you made that they might disagree with. But I violated my rule today and read through some of the stuff on Twitter. And today's my birthday, and there were a lot of birthday wishes in there. And I just want to take a moment to issue a genuine, heartfelt thank you to everybody who is truly kind and understanding and sweet. And, they take a moment out of their day to send a nice message. I really want to say thank you for that, because it means the world to me. And it means the world that there are even people who, maybe they don't agree with me on everything. Maybe they only agree with me 60% of the time or 70% of the time. But even in agreeing with me 60 or 70% of the time, they still keep me in their media diet and their regular viewers or listeners. I respect that, and I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's always stuck with me every step of the way from the beginning. And understand that, when I do the show, it's always coming from a good place. It's coming from the heart. I'm always telling you exactly what I think on the issues. And I'm human, and I make mistakes just like anybody else. But I always try to do my best to right or wrong if I did something wrong, or, to be as honest as possible at all times. I think that's the one thing in being any sort of, public figure, new media or otherwise. I feel like the deal that you make with the audience is just complete and utter honesty, complete transparency and openness. That's the deal. The deal is, if you give people your everything and sort of bear it all for the world to see, then you might get in return some support, some viewership, and things of that nature. And that's the one rule that you have to always abide by. Is like, look, I'm always going to tell people exactly what I think, and just let the chips fall where they may. And there are people who've stuck with the show every step of the way, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I also want to thank the people who've stuck with me in the show for a long time.
Okay, that's enough. So I'm going to go and find the section that I'm talking about where he went and talked to Vaush. And I want you to keep in mind what he just said, because everything that he just said about being honest and being transparent and being able to take his L's and, correcting any wrongs, that he's full of shit. And when you go on his, you go look through his comments, the people who say that they ride for him, it's almost like they're in a cult. I don't know what's going on in America today, but I'm feeling like I'm in some kind of, it's almost like the Matrix, where people, they have an opportunity to see the truth and live in a reality of truth, but then they choose to cover their eyes and stop up their ears, because we're in this culture of, well, I like you and you're my friend, so therefore when you do things that are jacked up, then I'm gonna just overlook all of that and pump you up anyway. And then so when Kyle goes after people, like I said, Bernie Sanders and AOC and the squad, well, they're not doing this and they don't do that, and they just want to kiss up to Pelosi because they want access. And, then when it comes down time for him to admit what he's doing, like he's kissing up to Joe Rogan because he wants access. See, he won't take